What is up, everybody? I am George Mossey. This is the George Mossey Show. This is my co-host Cherona. So, 90 Day Fiance, The Other Way, season 4 has finally aired. There is a lot to talk about. We met 3 new couples and 1 returning couple from Love in Paradise. If you watch that, I do. So, I want to jump in. I can't waste a lot of time because there's so much to talk about. There's so many different red flags we have to discuss. So, I want to talk about Chris and Jamie. So Chris is 40 from Haleyville, Alabama, but she's going on 20 because that's how she feels and that's how she looks. And she met Jamie, who happens to be her soulmate, who also happens to be a woman. So this story is really interesting because Chris has never been able to go out in public with a woman because it wasn't accepted where she was. So her very first open relationship with a woman is with Jamie, and she plans on moving to Bogota, Colombia, and marrying her sight unseen. She's never physically seen her outside of FaceTime. So what do you think about the idea of marrying someone? It kind of reminds me of Married at First Sight. Do you watch
Yeah,
that? I don't know.
I love that show. No, that definitely reminds me of Married at First Sight. I mean, at least they've seen each other on FaceTime. Personally, I could never do that. But they say they're soulmates. So
They
I
do.
guess we will see. I don't know.
Well, her kids are very skeptical.
Mm,
Her kids are very logical. I like the logic,
yeah.
especially with her daughter. Her daughter's like, I'm not emotional, I'm logical. And the logics and the statistics say that this is a horrible idea. She's like, I know that you love her and I know that she loves you, but she's like, statistically, this is going to end really horribly. And I'm worried. So I love the fact that her kids see it. And the reason why is because Jamie was sick with COVID and she was hospitalized. And that was the story that Chris got while Chris had ghosted her during a horrible time in her life. But she gets this weird Facebook message or social media message from this woman in Texas saying that not only was Jamie not actually sick, she was actually working and accepting money from Chris and talking to this woman all at the same time. Now, Chris said that she's accepted the fact that this happened, but she's not accepting the fact that this is enough to end their relationship. So what do you think about this? Because I was watching it and I was like, well, the proof is there. It's kind of like you have to accept it. I didn't realize that you have to accept the truth because she saw the truth, but she's like, well, I don't want to accept that. I see it. It's there in my face, but I don't have to accept it. So do you think that she's making a mistake? Or do you think that their love is so strong that they were just playing games with each other? Because you know how Angela would play games with Michael? She's like, well, he's not paying attention to me, so I'm going to flirt with this guy. And was this just something Jamie was doing to get Chris's attention? Like, what is going on?
Honestly, I mean, her and that other woman had a real connection. So I feel like it's a little different than just flirting with someone just to flirt with them to piss someone off.
Hmm.
That's a big red flag to me. I probably wouldn't go see someone that did that. I don't know. And then the fact that she lied about having COVID and said that she was in the hospital and then
Hmm.
was paying her bills, I don't really think that that's very good. I don't like that.
I'm super worried. Like this whole story, I was just seeing red flag after red flag. But I want this for Chris because Chris is like, this is my first time being myself. I want to be the lesbian woman that I am. And she lives in the Bible Belt and it wasn't accepted. But I don't know if this is the right relationship. And again, this is her very first open relationship with a woman. And I don't know if that's why she has her hopes up so high and she's not seeing what we see. Because on the outside looking in, we see so much. And I'm just super worried. She's selling everything she has. She's leaving everything she has, her son, her daughter, everything. And she's going to Bogota, Colombia. And what's going to happen? Because even her children were like, well, what happens if you get there and you guys decide you can't get along and she kicks you out, which is something that we saw in one of the previews. Where
Mhm.
exactly would you go?
I mean, I would get a plane ticket back home, but I mean, I feel like she would probably try to stay in like a hotel or something. I don't know. Like where can you go? She doesn't have friends. She doesn't know Jamie's friends to yeah. And Jamie's friends already don't really like her.
They
So
don't.
it's not like she could just roll up at her friend's house and be like, "Hey, can I stay here for a minute?" Nah,
They
you're
think she's yeah, they think she's weird too because she proposed after 1 month to
gonna
Jamie, so they
oh,
think she's weird. So everyone all around sees all these red flags, but the two of them just think this is true love. And I'm super worried, but super excited to see where this goes because when you see a bad car accident on the freeway, you're like, you look, you don't want to see anything horrible. So you're like, ooh, what happened over there? That's kind of how I feel about that. All right, so Danielle and Johan are back. Now, we had a discussion about this previously when we found out they were coming back, since we knew that Danielle wanted to move Johan back to New York with her. So we learned that Danielle has a love-hate relationship with New York. I feel the same way. New York is a place that kind of is bad for you, but you like to be there. So it is very expensive. I think she said it's $4,000 a month for her
Mhm.
apartment. And she was like, well, the idea of bringing him back here, and we worked so hard just to get by, I would rather live in paradise. But
Mhm.
the first thing that came to my mind was, Danielle, there's other places in the US where you can live where they won't charge you $4,000 a month for a tiny apartment. There's like all types of places, especially up north, where you
Mhm.
can get a pretty big house for a small amount of money because it's not one of the big cities like LA or Atlanta, or, it's not one of those places. So I'm thinking, how is Johan going to feel, because his American dream is on the line? He's
Mhm.
always wanted to move to America, make the wages that he could, take care of his family. It's his responsibility as a man in his family to send
Mhm.
money back and take care of them. And I think Danielle's friends were like, well, what about the swanky panky? So we kind of heard a little bit about this on the Family Chantel.
Mhm.
And Miss Karen was telling us about this Family Chantel situation where there's men who work at resorts, and they go
Mhm.
and they literally are there to meet American women, and then those women help take care of them, get them green cards, and bring them over to the US. So Danielle's friends, especially Lizette, is like, you need to be very worried about this situation because you happen to run into this guy at this beautiful resort, and now you fell in love with him. You don't even really speak the same language, although Danielle does speak really good Spanish. But
Mhm.
should she be worried? Because I don't know. She said that when they're together, Johan never reaches for his wallet. He just assumes she's going to pay for everything. Are you worried about her? I don't know.
Uh,
Should we be worried about Danielle?
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that he never tries to pay, but he's the man and in his country he should be the provider.
Yeah.
Kind of weird. I don't really like that. So I don't think that that's amazing to start off with. And I also feel like this is really going to create a lot of turmoil when he finds out he's not coming to the United States. Like, I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, like you said, they can move anywhere else. They can move to Florida. They can move literally anywhere. They don't have to live in New York.
I don't understand why she's so gun ho on just leaving the country just because of New York. I get not wanting to live in New York. I go there, I vacation there, I've worked in that area. It's horrible. Trying to get a cab, trying to not get run over by a cab. It's very difficult. It's a constant struggle, and there's people everywhere. And if you wake up at 3 in the morning, all you hear is horns and yelling. It's just insane. Oh, and sirens as well. You
Oh,
never know what's going on. No one ever sleeps there. I totally get it. But Indiana's nice. Michigan is nice. Ohio's nice. No one wants to live there. Like, there's pretty big houses there that you can get that no one wants to live in because nobody wants to go there. So I don't know why she has to go to the Dominican Republic with no plan, no
hmm
backup plan whatsoever. I think that's what worries me the most, is that she doesn't have like a job prospect. She doesn't have a plan. She's like, well, I'm just going to manifest living on the beach and eating these mangoes and living my best life, which all sounds great. I
yeah.
love it. Manifesting is something that I do every day, but you have
hmm
to manifest something into something. Like, you can't manifest nothing into something. You have to have something to manifest it into. So I'm
yeah.
also worried about Danielle in that aspect, because Johan doesn't like to pay for things. So if she gets over there, who's going to pay for stuff?
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do. He's either gonna have to start paying up, or like you said, they're gonna have to move somewhere here that's cheaper than New York. I mean, like you said, there's so many places in the United States that are cheaper. Why is she just maybe he's fixated on New York, or is it that she's I don't know. I don't know. I mean, they could find anywhere to go.
Yeah, there's so many places they can go. And I'm just worried that they're going to stay there and that's going to be the end of their relationship, because
hmm
Johan is pretty sure that America is the place to go. And I've never heard him really say out of his mouth it has to be New York. She just said, well, if we go back to New York, we won't be able to survive. But you don't have to go back to the Big Apple. You can actually go to New York State, and you can actually live in Buffalo or Syracuse. There's so many different places that you can try. And I feel like she's giving up on trying to make the American dream happen. And two incomes in America is a lot better than two incomes in the Dominican Republic. The wages are just lower. And she
hmm
doesn't even have like a prospect of what she's going to do, because she's a high school teacher and she does yoga. on Zoom or whatever. And I don't know if she could do yoga like at a resort or something there. Who knows? It doesn't sound like she's looked into it. And I'm
No.
just worried because you can't just pack up all of your things. I think she said in 11 suitcases and hop on a flight and take your entire life somewhere with no plan. Like that just the idea of that gives me anxiety.
Oh, for sure. Same. I'm getting the same anxiety as you. If I had to pack up my whole life and if I wasn't telling my husband that I was packing up my whole life and that we weren't going where we said we're going to go, I would be so nervous. I don't know how she's going to navigate this.
So we ran out of time. We have more to talk about. There is two more people we have to talk about. We ran out of time on this one. So we're going to come back with part 2 and finish talking about our first impressions of this season, season 4 of 90 Day Fiancé, The Other Way. I am George Mossey. This is the George Mossey Show. This is my co-host, Cherona. Make sure you're following me at George Mossey on all social media platforms, georgemossey.com, anywhere you get your podcast. And you have to follow Cherona too at these links right here at the bottom. And we will talk to all of you really soon.